Hello, welcome back to the channel, and we've got a grain to glass video.
Way back a year ago.
Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this is a grain to glass homebrew video. This is one of, I've been wanting to brew this for a while. Basically, it's a Boddington's 1971 bitter, or is it a bitter? It's a Manchester bitter. It's a stalwart Manchester bitter, or is it a take on an IPA? But it was called the Manchester bitter. Now you're probably thinking, what on earth is he going on about? So we'll get into that in a minute. Boddington's Brewery. So it was a regional brewery in Manchester, Strange Ways Brewery. I think it's a car park now. Best known for Boddy's Bitter, a straw, golden, hoppy, bitter, hoppy. Boddington's was brought by Whitbread in 1989, and now it's owned by AB InBev. And I think they're brewing somewhere in Lancashire the Boddington's draft watery yellow stuff that you can get in a can now. Strange Ways was closed in 2004. It basically brewed from 1778 all the way up to 2004. It was also bombed during the Blitz, and it was shut for several months during that time. And I think at that point, I think they lost the yeast, and I think Whitbread, who had they had sort of shares in the company at the time, I think they supplied them with some yeast from Tadcaster. I think that's what the story's like anyway. The brewed in, I think it's called Salisbury, and at some point it was brewed also in South Wales after they closed the Strange Ways Brewery. The cask was on contract with Hyde Brewery in Manchester, and that ceased in 2012, so you can't get bodies in cask anymore. And there's no real connection anymore to Manchester with any of the brewing. The two Bs that you see is basically, it's a nod to the Manchester Industrial Revolution and the hard work and the worker bee. And it's also two Bs because of Boddington's bitter, which is interesting because I'm three Bs. So I've got the three Bs, they're the two Bs. And it's the same reasons as well. So why did I brew 1971 Boddington's bitter? Well, what I'll do, I'll cut now to the brew day. We'll come back and we'll have a little chat, and I'll crack this bottle open. Okay, the 1971 Boddington's recipe. So what we've got in the grist here is some Chevalier malt, which is a heritage malt. We've got some Pilsner malt, which surprised me. We've got some acidulated malt. That's going to help with the pH of the water as well. Some basically flake corn or maize or corn maize, what you want to call it. Little bit of torrefied wheat. That must be for head retention. And then some invert sugar, which I've made. Again, invert sugars are used a lot in historical recipes. And then the rest is just the salt treatment. We've got Fuggles, that's going to be for the bittering, East Kent Goldings, Irish Moss, and East Kent Goldings to flavour. And there's my yeast starter ready, and there's my brew in the bag. So let's get cracking. Okay, so mashing in now, 70 degrees mashing, but the actual, 70 degrees strike water for a 67 mash. Going to mash this because it's got Chevalier in it for about 1.5 hours. Try and extract as many sugars as possible from that heritage malt. And then all I've got to do after I've done this is add in my salts, checking for dough balls as well as I'm going. Okay, so adding the salts for the water profile. Try and match it the best I can to historical water around Manchester. Let's get that temperature down now to 67. Put the lid on and then leave it for, like I say, 90 minutes mash. Okay, so mash done, mashed out. Got to do now is just basically strain that grain bag and then see what the gravity is, the pre-boil gravity. Hopefully I'm on target. Okay, so we're just reaching the boil now. So like these proteins, I'm just going to stir them back in to the wort. Nearly time to put in the 90-minute Fuggles hop edition. There we go then, so nice steady boil rolling. It's all raw, I can see that there. So 90-minute Fuggles going in. You can see that there now, that's rolling, you can see all the hops. I'm going to set the alarm now for 1 hour and then come back and then add the invert sugar and the next hop addition. Okay, 30-minute addition, East Kent Goldings going in, and what I'll do now, I'll get that invert sugar prepared to go in. So there's my invert sugar, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a couple of ladles of the hot wort, and the idea now is that will help dissolve that sugar. Okay, so some of the wort in, this is the invert sugar, and you just see now how it's melting, and the idea is once it's melted I can put it into the boil pan, the kettle, and it's not going to stick to the bottom of the pan, it's going to be liquidized basically. There you go, it's coming together, and this is going to help, adds a little bit of flavour, invert sugar, and a little bit of colour as well to the brew. Okay, so there you go, invert sugar going in, and what I'll have to do now is just make sure I get that back to the boil. So I'll give that a quick stir. Make sure nothing's catching on the bottom, shouldn't be. Bring this back to the boil and set me timer for 15 minutes. So now, 15-minute addition, Irish moss. So now, Fuggles, this is my flame out addition. So it's the last hop addition. Fuggles, get some aroma and flavour. So switch off, turn off the heat. There we go, flame out. Going to let that stand now for about 30 minutes. Then I'll transfer it for cooling and get it into the fermenter with the yeast. The Boddington's colour apparently is straw to golden. So once this obviously goes through fermentation, it looks slightly clear up a bit, but I'm happy with that colour so far. So I've used the hydrometer and the refractometer. I've got a final gravity of 1038, so I'm happy with that. There's the colour. Again, I'm pretty happy with that as well. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. So yeah, so let's get the beer in the glass. Now, like I say, a straw golden colour beer. I've also purchased the Boddington's glass to pour it into. This is a pint glass. It's got the two B's, it's got the Boddington's logo on there. This came out at 3.8%. I was hoping for 4.1, 4.2. That's what the 71 Boddingtons would have been, but I used Windsor and Nottingham yeast, so I sort of blended them, and the attenuation was not that high. I think it was 73% attenuation from that yeast, where the actual original 1971 Boddingtons, their yeast was attenuating to 91%. So my grist grain bill was right, it's just the fact that the yeast didn't eat as much sugars. That's me just touching the tablet there. So yeah, I will rebrew this and just go all out Nottingham and see if that's a bit more going to go for it, see if we can get that ABV bumped up a little bit. So let's get the actual beer in the glass. I did put this went into keg and then put it into a bottle from the keg. So I see that coming off there. So I'll give it a bit of a vigorous pour. So we're looking for straw coloured beer. As it got moved through the years, it got known to be the cream of Manchester, because it got the widgets. I think it's one of the first brews to have a widget as well. There we go. And then nowadays, there we go. There's the beer in the Boddington's glass. It's got a slight haze to it. There we go. Looks good. Nice white head. Creamy head, to be honest. So I'm pleased with that. But nowadays you can get the Marble Manchester Bitter, which is also a take on the Boddington's Bitter. And I think that's a cracking beer as well. It's really light coloured. I think at the time, in 1971, the idea was they wanted to put something out in the market that would challenge the lager that was coming in. Something that was sort of quite dry as well, light coloured, challenging lager drinkers to come and get a pint of Manchester Bitter, something slightly more hoppy than your normal bitter, especially like your ordinaries and your best bitters. It's a lot lighter as well, as you can see. But to be honest, I'm pleased with that. I really am pleased with the look of that in the glass. It's looking quite good, to be honest. Okay, so gone through the recipe. So I used Chevalier malt, pale malt, used Pilsner malt, I used the maize, some torrefied wheat, and then the invert sugars. And the hops were Fuggles, East Kent Goldings, some Irish moss in there, and then, like I say, Windsor and Nottingham yeast to get. I was looking to try and get some sort of flavour profile, which they may possibly have had in 1970s. But yeah, so let's get the aroma. So it's, to me, there's a malt character there, but the hops are coming through, and it's quite a fresh aroma. Floral, slight zingy, citrus, really low citrus note, but smells quite inviting, if I'm honest. Let's get a taste. Cheers. Low carbonation, which I was aiming for. That's why I put it in the cask and put it on really low CO2. It's got a malt there, but more hop forward. Them hops just make it light, fresh, a little bit zingy. It definitely does dry out a little bit on the palate. It could be drier, for sure. Body's okay. It's a light body. I wouldn't say it's watery at all. But it's quite moreish. It's quite an easy... it's one of them ones that you want to go back for. It does draw you back, and I'm really pleased with that, because I'd like to change, maybe mess about with the hops a bit in this. I could try some newer English hops, like the Harlequin, the Olicana Opus, or the other one, CF184. I'd like to try one of them, or even some American hops, and that'd be very similar then to the Manchester Bitter from Marble. It's really easy drinking. That is so nice. I think it'd be really good if it just had that cask pull, the beer engine pulling through in it, like it would have in 1970s. Definitely would have had it done. I got a recipe from what's called, if you go online, it's a website called Shut Up About Barclay Perkins. I've also got a book called Let's Brew, and it's Ron Pattinson. And what he says on here is that the brew house name wasn't Bitter, but IP, which undoubtedly originally stood for IPA. But it's an IPA, but a lot lower in ABV. It's changed in 1977. They dropped the lager malts from this, changed it, and then I think from 1980s it changed again. And I think what they say in history says that it sort of, over time, it got worse. The Boddington's Bitter just seemed to get worse, and that's why I went for the 1970s recipe, because I've never tasted the Boddington's 1970, obviously, and I just wanted to see, and if it was tasting like 1970, why did they mess with it? Because I think that's a cracking little beer. The changes, like I said, is change the yeast. I don't think I need to mess with the malt bill at all. I made the invert sugar myself, which I've used in this. That helps dry it out a little bit as well. I just think it really works, and I'm going back again, really enjoying it. I don't know if you can see the beer. I mean, it's got lacing, but it's not got a head that's lasted all the way down to the bottom. But I'm not too bothered about that at all. I've just got off this like 1970s recipe, and to me, I'm enjoying it. So it's definitely going to be a beer that I'll rebrew. I've enjoyed brewing it. Yeah, I'm going to definitely be playing around with this now as my sort of house Manchester stalwart bitter, and maybe change the yeast, change the hops, brew it with the same hops, brew it with the different yeast, just keep messing about with it, because I think that, and that ABV 3.8, between 3.8 and 4.2, I think I'm going to try and stick to that sort of ABV as well, because I think it suits it, especially for drinking. It's really low carbonation, really low, going up out. That's exactly how I wanted it to be. So yeah, more than happy with that. I don't think there's anything else to say really. I've gone through the recipe, I've tasted it, shown you it, pleased with it. Like I say, it's from Barclay. Shut Up About Barclay Perkins, Ron Patterson. The ingredients are on there, what I went with, the actual percentages. The ABV was 4.3 back in 1971, and like I say, that attenuation of the yeast back then was 91.5. I got 73, so you can see the difference there. They got it down to 1.003, which would have made this ultra dry. Mine finished at 110. Yeah, 1010. So he just left a little bit of body in there. But like I say, that's the only thing I'm going to change, is get a yeast that can just go that bit further. I shouldn't have gone with the Windsor blended with the Nottingham. I don't think that's just a learning curve. It's just a mistake. Okay, well, hope I haven't bored you. I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying doing this because I've also got a Boddington Strong Ale coming up. It's great glass. I'm currently brewing a JW Lee's Dark Mild. That should come in around about 3.5%. And as it stands, as I'm doing this video, there's a poll out on my channel to see which next heritage beer I should do. And I think the Truman's Porter is winning that, the Crimea Porter. I'll leave that going. So this video, if anyone else wants to go and do anything on the community page on the channel, if they want to put a vote in for which of the three, there's a Porter, there's a Boddington Stout, and there's a JW Lee's Bitter. They're the three options if you want to go and have a look and get on there, and if you're watching this whilst I'm doing the poll, that is. Okay, I've gone on long enough. Thanks for watching. Cheers, and I'll see you on the next one.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating.